Hey everyone, Mitch coming in for the Chimera's Core studio. Welcome to the show. Okay, so Aether Drift spoiler season is in full force right now, but that being said, does everyone remember that Innistrad Remastered just came out? Like, literally just came out, and when that happens, well, with a giant reprint set, we get a lot of massive price drops, and these are the cards you need to pick up right now. Yeah, I don't know why, but for some reason, Wizards just tends to, like, stack things on top of each other for whatever reason. But that actually might be a good way for you to take advantage of these prices before others do. First up, let's talk about Metallic Mimic. Dropping down from, like, a $5 or $6 card down all the way to about $1.62. Even the Lost Caverns of Ixalan 1 just dropped too. So yes, if you have been waiting around for Metallic Mimic like $5 or $6, now it's just $1.62. Not quite within my budget, but it might be within yours. I guess I should say what it does. It's a great card for tribal decks. It costs 2. Enters, choose a creature type, and then it is the chosen type, and it says each other creature controlled the chosen type enters with additional counter on it. Basically a nice kind of, not anthem, but pump effect for those creatures when they come into play. So again, for a lot of tribes out there, it's a very good, solid card. Moving on, Captivating Vampire. Speaking of a tribe that is so heavy hitting and keeps getting so many more good cards, this is such a good one for, obviously, vampires. $3.14 right now for the least expensive version of this. This got really expensive, like $12 or so on average. My goodness. It's a vampire that gives your other vampires +1/+1, so a nice anthem there. On top of that, by tapping 5 vampires, steal an opponent's creature and make it a vampire. So, yeah, this is a very, very, very solid, very good card, and it is quite brutal in a vampire build. Again, with that anthem, that's lovely, especially for an Edgar Markov deck, very low to the ground. But of course, also, very low to the ground makes a bunch of vampires. Utilize them to steal your opponent's best creatures. Hey, you know what? That Eldrazi over there would be much better as a vampire Eldrazi, which, I guess, does that work in Magic lore? If just, like, any vampire bites anything, it just turns into a vampire? Like, if you bit a crab, is that now a vampire crab? That works with anything. What about a spirit? What about a ghost? You know, like, you can't bite a ghost. Anyways, Lore Mage, just help me out. Next up, Bloodline Keeper. Speaking of vampires, again, so many good ones. This one's $7 right now, dropping down from, like, $15 or $16. Yeah, this is a very good one. Here we go. A 3/3 vampire with flying for 4 mana in total. Tap, create a 2/2 black vampire creature with flying. You can also pay a black to transform it, only if you got 5 or more vampires, which you will. You're in a vampire deck. Let's transform it, though, to see what happens. Lord of Lineage. On the backside, we've got a 5/5 flying vampire. Other vampire creature controller +2/+2, so a nice anthem there. On top of that, tap, also make a vampire. So again, you get to keep that, and also you get a nice anthem with it too. Moving on, we've got Heritage Drood. We've got a card that has not been reprinted in such a long time, and it finally is. Like, literally Stronghold. I mean, okay, it was on the list. I guess that counts kind of as a reprint, but Stronghold. My goodness, that is a long time ago. This is a card that was around, like, $25, $30 or so. You can see the other prices already starting to drop, but now it's just $15 for this version. If you want to build around and, like, mill your entire deck with one card, you can. This is a 1/1 human druid for 2 mana in green. Pay a green, tap. Reveal cards that you top your library to reveal a basic land card. Put that card in your hand, I should say, not on the battlefield. And all their cards reveal this way in your graveyard. Now, for most decks that build with this one, though, it doesn't really matter if it goes in your hand on the battlefield. If you're, I'm not saying most decks, I guess, but if you're trying to combo with this, it's just, oh, okay, I don't have any basic lands in my deck. Cool. All of a sudden, just activate this, mill your entire library. Yeah, there's a reason why it's banned in Legacy. Gross. So this is a card that can mill you super quick. Again, if you've got like a self-mill strategy, like a Lab Maniac kind of win, you can win in that way. Or just, again, in a self-mill strategy in general, if you only have a certain number of basics in there, or even a decent amount, if you have like, say, 20 basics in your deck, you're still like bound to mill like 4 cards or so at a time. But yeah, if you only have like 10 basics, cool, even less. 6 basics, even less. Play basics, so they're good. But if you got a specific deck builder on this one, it's a very, very, very good card. Next up, Tree of Perdition, a 0/13 plant. Here's the thing. Okay, Wizards, we've got all these things. We've got all these things in Magic, right? And you get like so specific on certain creature types. And you're like, that tree is a plant. Yep. But we also have Tree Folk. That's a plant. The tree. It's not a tree. The plant. Okay, anyways, 0-13 defending plant for 4 mana in black. Tap, exchange target opponent's life total with this creature's toughness. Yeah, this is a brutally effective and efficient card. $6 right now, dropping down from $15 or $16. Is like the very first like real actual reprint, like in a full product. Like Jumpstart kind of counts-ish, but not really. Anyways, yeah, this is a massive price drop, more than half, obviously, and yeah, it's a great way to drop more than half your opponent's life total, too. Again, going down from 40 in Commander down to just 13. They're going to lose. They're going to lose. That player is going to lose. And also, of course, this creature's toughness becomes then 40 or whatever that opponent's life total was. It's a brutally effective card. Even like just like super early in the game, it's like one of the biggest threats on the board. It's like, oh my gosh, that person's got a plant, not a tree. It's a plant. There you go. Moving on. Sigarda, Host of Herons, $1.46, almost in my budget, almost $1, almost under $1, down from like $5-6 or so. A 5/5 Angel of Flying and Hexproof for 5 mana in Selesnya. Spells and abilities your opponent's cast. Can't control, I should say. Can't cause you to sacrifice permanents. Yeah, that's a very effective thing. I mean, just overall as a solid angel again, 5/5 flying hexproof for 5. It's gonna be hard to deal with, and also just having that, you know, effect out there to be like, hey, edict effects don't hurt me. Or also keep in mind Eldrazi. I mean, I guess that's an ability trigger. I don't know. But yes, being able to protect yourself from a lot of edict effects can be absolutely fantastic. Just a solid card. And a commander, too. Keep that in mind. Next up, though, Eye Navigator. Here we go. So, again, a card that has rarely been reprinted. Was reprinted once in Modern Masters, so that's been, what, like 8 years since this has been reprinted? Crazy. $4.33 for this gem, down from around like $6, $7, $8 or so. A 5/5 Spirit for 6 mana in blue. It's got Soul Bond. Basically, pair it with another creature. As long as it's paired with another creature, each of those creatures has pay 1 in a blue. Exile, they return to the battlefield under control. Seems like a lot of the Soul Bound ones were like pretty tame for the most part. Like, if it's paired together, it's got first strike, and so do I. Yay! And then this one's like, okay, break the game open? Yeah, you just break the game open with this card. This is literally pay 2 mana to blink another creature. You know how broken that is? Super broken, super easily. Just like any creature that's like, I mean, like Peregrine Drake is the typical example, right? Okay, ETB, untap 5 lands, cool. Infinite mana, congratulations. Even if you're not going infinite with it, it's still like, oh, pay 2 mana, blink my Moldrifter, draw 2, again and again and again and again and again. That's gross. So even if you're not going infinite, super good in a blank deck. If you are going infinite, yeah, I mean, I'm assuming if you're playing this card that you're going infinite. If you're on the other side of the table and you have this on your side of the table, I'm like, where's the Peregrine Drake? When's it get into play? Somebody take that player out right now. Take that player out right now. Very, very, very solid card. Next up. Speaking of which, when they printed this, it was like, what are you doing, Wizards? What got into you? All right, Cultivator Coloss is a star plant base. Here we go with a plant. This is not a tree. With trample for 7 mana in green. Power and toughness, each equal to the number of lands you control. When this creature enters, you may put a land card from your hand on the battlefield tapped. If you do draw a card, repeat this process. This is a $10 card, down from like $15 or so dollars. Yeah, it's a very good card that will never, ever, ever be budget friendly for me. That being said, it might be a good thing that it doesn't see any more widespread play than it already does. First of all, obviously a giant threat for you. Just star with trample that, you know, is equal to your lands. You're in green. You have plenty of ways to ramp, including this, which is absurd. Basically, dump every land you could possibly have from your hand or going to be in your hand, you know, when you're drawing miscellaneously, into play, and to just keep doing it. So it's like card advantage plus ramp at the same time, plus a giant threat. And again, that's on ETB, so you could also use and abuse that ETB in various ways. So yeah, it's very, 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 very good. Gross. But yeah, $10. Also, you know, a good amount of savings right there. Next up, Hlebreaker, a 7/8 Kraken with flash that costs 7 mana in blue. Can't be countered whenever you cast a spell. Choose up to 1. Return target spell you don't control back to its owner's hand, or return target non-land permanent to its owner's hand. Again, at a certain point, I don't know what point in history this was, but you know, we had giant sea monsters way back in the day, and there was like 80 million downsides to them. It's like, well, it's a 10/10 for 8 mana, but you have to sacrifice all your lands, and it also doesn't untap. Okay, so we had that, and now these days it's like, well, it's 7 mana, so it's got to be bigger than 7. It's a 7/8, okay. Oh, you can also flash it in, though, so whenever you want. Also, it can't be countered, and by the way, busted things. Yeah, this is very easily broken. Basically, like any just in general, any free repeatable spell, like, you know, I don't know, spell book or something like that, and then repeatable only because of this, and then also like Soul Ring, there you go, infinite mana. And like, what decks don't have Soul Ring in them? I mean, not too many. Yeah, I mean, this is, even if you're not going infinite, it's absolutely absurd. Being able to bounce any non-land permanent back to its owner's hand, again, including yourself, when you want to go infinite with it, great, absolutely absurd. Now, anytime you cast any spell, you're like, okay, get rid of that. Okay, get rid of that. Okay, get rid of that. Even when your opponents cast a spell, you're like, nah, I don't want that to go through. Put it back in your hand. So yeah, you literally just do absurd things with this. Again, this can't be counted, so it can't be stopped. And it's also a 7/8. So yeah, I mean, obviously, Sea Monster Tribal loves it. But yeah, this is $3 or so right now, down from around like 6, 7, 8, 9. Yeah, that's a huge savings. Jump on it. Next up, Balefire Dragon, a 6/6 dragon for 7 mana in total, flying. Whenever this creature deals combat damage to a player, it deals that much damage to each creature that player controls. Gross, disgusting. Only $4 right now, down from like $14 or $15 or so. My goodness, dragon players out there right now are frothing at the mouth because this is such a good card. I mean, this is like burning at the mouth, like you can see in the picture, but yeah, never mind. Anyways, being able to just say, hey, okay, I've got my dragon, which, oh no, it's overcosted. I gotta pay 7 mana for a 6/6 flyer. It better do something good. How about wiping your opponent's boards again and again and again and again? Yeah. I mean, even just at 6 damage, right? That's usually enough to take out every single one of that opponent's creatures. And, hey, if you have any pump effects in play, which you probably do because you're in a tribal deck, then sure, even more so, why not? Or a damage doubling effect? Gross. But yeah, $4 right now, giant discount on this one. Again, Dragon, one of the most popular creature types out there. Next up, Thing in the Ice, a 0/4 defender that costs 2 mana. Enters with 4 ice counters on it. Whenever you cast in a sorcery spell from your hand, I guess, anywhere, I guess. Remove an ice counter from it, and then if there are no ice counters on it, you transform it, and it flips over into a 7/8 Kraken. When it transforms into Awoken Horror, return all non-horror creatures to their owner's hands. Gross, disgusting, amazing. Yeah, if you're in like a spell slinger strategy, that's quite easy to hit that, obviously, to make sure that you can actually, you know, flip it. But essentially, yeah, flip it, and all of a sudden your opponents are in big trouble because you've got a big creature on the board, and all your opponent's creatures are gone. And, yeah, I mean, your other creatures might be gone too, but who cares? Or if you've got that kind of a tribal deck, then great, good for you. But down to around $1.70 right now for around $4 or so. Good for a Spellslinger deck for a, like, kind of like pseudo board wipe in a way. That's also a pretty big threat. And again, this is all just 2 mana, essentially. So that's pretty crazy. Next up, Gravecrawler, down a little bit. Just I want to point this out because this one like never goes down in price, and it barely went down. It went down to around $4 or so. It's usually around like 5, high 5s to 6 or so. So it's, I guess, like a third of the price-ish down. If you have a zombie deck, it's a very, 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 very good card. If you have a aristocrat style deck that has a decent amount of zombies in it, essentially, or like a zombie commander, it's a very, 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 very good card. There's not many cards that do what this does. It's a 2/1 zombie that costs a single black mana. It can't block, who cares? You may cast from your graveyard though as long as you control a zombie. This is a repeatable 1 mana creature you can keep getting back again and again and again. It just doesn't stop. It is literally a Gravecrawler. It is just crawling out of the grave again and again and again. It's a very good card. Zombie tribal, very popular. And also, again, aristocrats, if you got other zombies in there, if you have a zombie commander, oh my goodness, this is an absurd thing to sacrifice some absurd creature fodder. Next up, Thalia, Heretic Cathar. Do you have a Stacks deck? Yes? Cool. This is a good card for it. First strike, creatures in non-basic land your opponent's control, enter tap, slow your opponents down to a crawl. And also, sure, you've got a 3/2 first striker for 3 mana, $1.76, down from around $3 or $4 or so. Next up, Voice of the Blast, very good for a life gain deck. If you've got a lot of different instances of life gain, I should say. If it's just like, I gain 80 life all at once. Okay, it's still only 1 counter. I should probably read the card. 2 Spirit Cleric for 2 mana in white. Whenever you gain life, put a counter on this creature. As long as this creature has 4 more counters on it, it's got Flying Vigilance. If it's got 10 or more counters, it's indestructible. This is kind of like a Build-A-Bear creature where it's like, all right, it starts off small, and then all of a sudden, my gosh, that's a Grizzly. Yeah, you can make an absolutely absurdly powerful creature. Again, very low to the ground. But once you get those counters going, and again, it's every single time you gain life, that can be a ton in a life gain deck because you've got a lot of different instances of life gain, like, you know, the Soul Sister type effects, etc., repeatable ones, and all of a sudden it is flying, vigilant, indestructible, and massive, and your opponents are screaming and running for the hills. $1.39 right now, down from around $3 or $4 or so. Next up, Decimator of the Provinces, kind of like a mini Greater Hoof Behemoth in a way-ish. Trample, Haste. This is a 7/7 that costs 10 mana. It's got a merge for 9 mana, so basically you can cast it by sacrificing a creature and then paying the remerge cost that is reduced by this creature's mana value, essentially. So yeah, if you sacrifice something that costs 6, great. It costs green, 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 or whatever. Or the pips can be gone too. Anyways, when you cast it, though, creature control, +2/+2, gain trample until end of turn. Yeah, so again, kind of like a very mini Greater Hoof Behemoth, one that you can cast for a lot cheaper, and it's a pretty big threat on its own, again, being a 7/7 with trample and haste, so do keep that in mind. 91 cents right now, down from $2 or so. Next up, Saurin Impious Bloodlord. $4 right now, down from like $12 to $15. Yeah, that's a lot of savings. Also a very weirdly formatted. That's probably why this one is so cheap compared to the other ones, because it's like, that's a Planeswalker? Yeah, because they did like the whole, like, you know, retro version of essentially of it, but there weren't Planeswalkers back then, so it's like just a miscellaneous 4 hanging out down there in the bottom right. Weird. I mean, cool, but weird. Okay, 4 starting loyalty, legendary Planeswalker Saurin for 3 mana in black. +1 target creature control gains Death Touch and Lifelink until end of turn. If it's a vampire, get a counter on it. +1 sacrifice a vampire. When you do 3 damage to any target, you gain 3 life. -3 cheat out a vampire, creature from your hand on the battlefield. I mean, that's already just good right there. Like, hey, oh, do I have a massive vampire in my hand? Cool, I'll just cheat it into play for 3 mana. This is just cheat giant vampire. So yeah, good vampire tribal. Obviously, it's a solid card. When it comes to like aristocrat style, not aristocrat style. When it comes to like super friend style, probably not, because yeah, you need other vampires to really make this work. That being said, vampires, very good. $4. Moving on. Conjurer's Closet. My gosh, this card will never not see play. Artifact. I'm gonna eat those words in like 10 years, and someone's gonna like clip this and be like, Mitch, you said it once, you never not see play, and it sees play in 0 decks right now because like the better Conjurer's Closets, 8 of them have come out, so you know, maybe. All right, Artifact for 5. At the beginning of your end step, you may blink a creature, basically. Exile target creature control, return to the battlefield under your control. This is $3.88 right now, down from like, yeah, this thing is always basically around like $8 to $10, maybe even more potentially. If it goes down, it goes back up. It goes down, it goes back up, because, hey, blinking creatures, who knew, is very good, especially in a format like Commander. So if you've got, say, a Commander that's got an amazing ATB, or if you just have a blink deck, essentially, where everything is a blink, and you're like, oh, okay, cool, extra value. Or if you've got certain Commanders that benefit when they leave, essentially, as well. There's a lot of different value propositions for this card, and yeah, it's just a solid, repeatable effect that, like, once you get in play, you just get free value for the rest of the game, essentially, which is pretty crazy. Moving on. Cryptith Right. Yeah, speaking of crazy, when this came out, I was like, Wizards, what are you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing? Enchant for 2 mana in green. Creature control have tap, add 1 mana of any color. Basically, everything you has is a dork. Everything you have is a dork. Every single one of those creatures is now a very efficient dork that just taps for, you know, fixing mana. It lets you fix it perfectly. So yeah, if you have like a go wide strategy, just chuck this in there and you're like, okay, I fixed my mana. On turn 3, I've got 8 tokens already, and now they can all tap for, you know, 8 mana in total, and I win the game. Yeah, this is a crazy good effect. If you've got any kind of a go wide strategy, it's pretty hard to argue against this. It's great for ramp and great for fixing. Just absolutely gross. $3.97 right now, down from like $13+. I actually didn't realize this is the very first time this has ever been reprinted. I guess I shouldn't be surprised, but yeah, a massive, massive price drop for this one. If you've been waiting for it, jump on it now, because it's going to be going back up in price, because here's the thing. There's a lot of go wide strategies, and this is an absurdly good card. Token strategies, go wide strategies, all those essentially. Moving on. Mass Hysteria. An enchant for a single red mana. I didn't realize this came out in Mirrodin. All creatures have haste. Here's the thing. All creatures have haste, not just your own. All creatures have haste. Again, at like 3 mana, what's it? Fervor? Essentially, it's kind of like the standard, essentially, for an enchantment that gives all of your creatures haste. This is like, no. I don't care. Mass Hysteria. Everything's got haste. That's still very valuable for you, especially if you are a group slug type strategy and you just kind of want to see the world burn. You're like, ha ha ha. Everyone starts swinging. Yes. But also, of course, if you have, say, a commander, or if you're just an aggressive deck in general, and you're like, yeah, I'm going to be swinging out all the time anyways, so I'm not going to be blocking, and I don't care. So here you go. Or if you got a commander that has an absurd, like, ability, like, and you want to utilize it right away, like a Krenko, essentially, and you're like, oh, okay, cool. Yeah, I mean, I'm going to be aggressive with all my goblins, so all of a sudden I'm going to tap Krenko immediately, make a ton of goblins, and then all of a sudden swing with them right away, and the next strike and tap again. It makes it so that if you're rebuilding things, those kinds of decks, you get your commander right back out, you swing right away, or you tap and get the ability right away. Yeah, it's not for every single deck out there that's looking for like haste enabling, but if you're an aggressive deck, my goodness, yes. $3.77 down from like around $6 or so. Next up, I love this card. I wish this was in my budget. I wish it was in my budget. Heartless Summoning, enchant for 2 mana in black. Creature spells you cast cost 2 less to cast. Creature control get -1/-1. Who needs power and toughness when you got cheap creatures? My goodness. Cost reduction is something that can be absolutely broken in a format like Commander. I mean, in a lot of formats, actually. Probably all the formats, but yeah, in Commander, just all of a sudden, reduce the cost of your creatures, cast them a lot quicker, or again, if maybe they're artifact creatures that happen to cost like 2 generic mana or less, then cast them for free and do some pretty crazy things with that. You can also take advantage, actually, of that -1/-1 in some weird ways, where it's like, sometimes you actually have like death triggers on creatures and you actually want them to die, so you're casting creatures for like cheaper, like say some Simulacrum. I guess it's not going to take it out, but like it makes it easier to take out. But sure, you play a creature, it gets taken, and you're like, okay, cool, all right, I got the value out of it. Great, good for me. $1.85 down from like $4 or $5 or so. Next up, Necro Duality. Hey, do you like zombies? Cool. Do you want more zombies? Yes. Enchantment for 4 mana in blue. Whenever a non-token zombie you control enters, create tokens, copy that creature. Gross, good, absurd. $9 or so right now, down from around $13, $15 or so dollars. Yeah, double up your entire zombie army. Not your entire army, I should say. But not your tokens, but, you know, the big zombies. The ones that you're actually casting. The ones you actually care about. And I guess, if you got Gravecrawler, have fun. Play, sacrifice, play, sacrifice, play, sacrifice, play, sacrifice. Make a lot of zombies. Yay! Moving on, Cathar Crusade, another card that will never, ever, 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 ever not be popular. I'm going to regret that in like 10 years. $2.47, down from like $10 or so. Yet another card, like Krypto's Right, which is just going to go right back up in price because it sees so much play. It's an enchantment that says whenever creature you control enters, get a counter each creature control. It's super simple, super effective. All of a sudden, you're like, okay, I'm going wide. How do I win, though, with all these tiny little 1/1s? Well, I guess I'll get this out, and all of a sudden, when I'm getting a lot of 1/1s out, awesome, it pumps all the 1/1s. My goodness. So yeah, basically, the more and more creatures get out, the bigger and bigger all your creatures get. It's pretty absurd. Obviously, also works really well in a +1 counter synergy deck. So yes, that, proliferate, and of course, go wide. $2.47, again, down from around 10 or so. Next up, Unnatural Growth, a very good card. Enchantment for 5 mana in green. At the beginning of each combat, double the power and toughness of each creature you control until end of turn. This is gross. This is incredibly effective. Hey, do you want your creature to just be twice as big all the time? Okay, not all the time, but, you know, every combat. Not just your own, every single combat. Yeah, that's pretty gross. So again, like, other anthems basically get amplified with this. Other pump effects get amplified by this too. Just essentially saying like, oh, if I get extra power on my things, all of a sudden this doubles that as well. $2.35 right now, down from around $4 or $5 or so. Moving on, Rooftop Storm, yet another. Do you like zombies? Cool. Also can be pretty broken and fun. I mean, for you. Enchantment for 6 mana in blue. You may pay 0 rather than pay the mana cost for zombie creature spells you cast. Keep in mind, it doesn't say from your hand. So again, Gravecrawler, have fun, infinite combo shenanigans. Yeah, basically just, hey, do you want to cheat out all the zombies from your hand perpetually? Great, do so. And I guess changelings as well. So congratulations. $2.10 right now, down from around $4 or $5 or so. Next up, Essence Flux, finally down underneath $1. I think I was actually just complaining about this card in a previous episode. Be like, Wizards reprinted, and they had. And I was like, oh wait, they are reprinting it. The price is just finally adjusting. Yeah, underneath $1 finally. But I remember this card back in my day. This card used to be 20 cents. I mean, it did used to be a lot cheaper, but yeah, Wizards, keep reprinting it, please. But thank you for at least reprinting it this one time. This is a common. I'm pretty sure it was a common in the first one too. Maybe it was uncommon, but keep reprinting it. Blue does blink effects. Why aren't you reprinting this? Well, there's a spirit theme to it, and it needs to be spirit. No, ignore that part. No one cares about that. There's not one person. Okay, there's one person. There's no one out there really that cares about that spirit part. Who cares? Just reprint it. It's Cloud Shift. Also reprint Cloud Shift. 96 cents right now, down from like $4 or so. It's just a 1 mana blank spell. That is super effective, super good in so many types of decks out there. Again, if you've got any kind of a commander that has a great ETB, great. Congratulations. Like, consider, because it's a good way to save the commander from target removal and also abuse that ETB so easily. And of course, yeah, in a blink deck in general, absolutely very good. And yes, I guess I should read what it does. Basically, instant for a single blue mana, exile target creature control, return to the battlefield under someone's control right away. Again, blink effect. If it's a spirit, you get a counter on it. No one cares about the counter. It just matters that it blinks. This is Cloud Shift in blue. Wizards reprint it more. Moving on. Second Harvest, a card that again used to be budget friendly, no longer. Instant for 4 mana in green. For each token you control, create tokens, copy that permanent. Notice that one word that is missing on this card is creature. It is not based on creature tokens, it's based on all your tokens, including treasures. Yeah, as soon as treasures hit the scene, this got really popular and really expensive because, hey, if you're in a treasure deck and you're in green, you're like, you know what's better than these treasures? All these treasures, double it up, yay! But yeah, creature token strategies, any kind of like food strategy, clue strategy, treasure strategy, just token strategy in general. 4 mana, instant speed, double up, that can be pretty crazy, pretty effective. It can be a game-ending card that like, out of nowhere, again, your opponent's be like, I think we're okay actually, all right? That guy's got like 10 creature tokens in play, but like, we can all block effectively. And then right before your turn hits, you're like, I doubled them. You're like, oh, we're all dead now, okay. $3 right now, down from like $6, $7, $8 or so. Moving on through the breach. This one is probably better in other formats, but in Commander can still definitely see play. Instant Arcane, which probably doesn't really matter all that much. For 5 mana, instant matters, Arcane doesn't. For 5 mana in red, you may put a creature card from your hand on the battlefield. That creature gains haste, sacrifice at the beginning of next end step. You can also splice Arcane. Again, probably doesn't matter, but still. Being able to just cheat something massive into play, fun. Especially if it's got a great ETB. $1 so right now. I didn't realize this one hadn't seen all of many reprints, I guess, but down from like $3, $4, $5 or so. Moving on, Traverse the Elvenwald. Do you like tutors? Cool. $1 for this one, down from around 2 or so. Go get a basic, so early in the game, cool. It's a good way to ensure that you're not missing your land drops. But later in the game, you got 4 or more card types in your graveyard if you got Delirium. Instead, search life for a creature or land, reveal, put your hand, then shuffle. So it's one of those like flexible tutors that, again, later in the game, it gets much better because all of a sudden you can be like, well, instead of actually just going to get a basic, I can go get, number one, any land if I would like that. So again, if I have, say, Gaia's Cradle or whatnot, if I got a $600 card or whatever that is these days in my deck, great, I go get that. Or, hey, any creature in my deck too. So if you have any kind of a strategy that has a decent amount of card types, again, or self-mill, or just sacrificing and getting things in the graveyard, and yeah, you can ensure that you're going to get 4 or more, yeah, it could be something to consider. Like, it's not for every deck, but it's a good, solid tutor. Next up, speaking of good solid tutors, Eldric Evolution. A sorcerer with 3 mana in green, sacrifice a creature, go get any creature out of your library that basically costs 2 more than that sacrificed creature. Okay, have fun. Put that card on the battlefield and then shuffle, exile this. Yeah, that's crazy good. Just basically cheat something out from your library into play that is 2 more than that. Have fun. If you've got a creature-based strategy that has just like a lot of very solid creatures in it from a swath of different, mana values, yeah, you can do some pretty crazy things with this. $1.45 right now, down from around $3 or $4 or so. This can also be a combo card with certain decks too. Like if your commander has a certain mana value and you're like, oh, there's a combo card in my deck that has 2 more than that mana value. Cool. You can do that and you can win. Next up, Temporal Mastery. Speaking of winning, extra turn spells do that. $5.66 right now, down from $8, $9 or so. Basically, you get extra turn for this one. It's got a miracle cost too, so you can actually cast it for just 2 mana if you happen to draw it in first card on the turn. If not, you're paying 7, and you're still willing to do that because it's an extra turn and you're gonna win the game, right? You got extra turns, have fun. But your opponents probably won't have fun because you're playing solitaire. Next up, we've got Vanquish the Horde. Basically, the White Blasphemous Act. This one is a sorcery for 8 mana in total, but you'll never pay that. And if you do, what are you doing? That makes no sense. This spell costs 1 less cast for each creature on the battlefield. Because if you literally spent 8 on it, I'm sure someone has, but there's no creatures on the battlefield, so it doesn't do anything. Destroy all creatures! So this is basically Wrath of God, but basically, yeah, just, probably 2 mana cheaper than that the vast majority of the time. You're going to be wiping the board for just 2 mana, which is pretty crazy. $1.48 down from around $4 or so. Moving on, Westville ABY. This is a great land. Taps for a Coloss, pay 5 tap, pay 1 life, make a token, pay 5 tap, sacrifice 5 creatures, transform it, and it flips over into everyone's favorite, Orand Doll, Profane Prince. Yeah, there's plenty of players out there like, we should be able to play this as a commander. I don't disagree, it'd be kind of funny. Anyways, 9/7, flying lifelink, indestructible, and haste. $3.75 right now, down from like $5 or $6 or so. If you've got a, token strategy, this could be a beneficial thing for that, essentially. Like, okay, my land can make tokens, not very effectively, but yeah, I mean, it can make them enough. But sure, like, being able to, like, go wide enough very quickly to actually flip this and have a indestructible flying lifelink hasty 9/7, yeah, that's fun. And of course, obviously, Riskrat style decks love it as well because it's a sacrifice outlet. Not a repeatable one, but a good sacrifice outlet for one time, essentially, on a land. Doesn't take up a spot in your deck. Speaking of which, a lot of other lands got reprinted as well. I'm just going to show one of them as an example. Deathcap Glade. All of these, like, enters tapped unless you control 2 or more other lands. They tap for 2 colors. Cool. A lot of them get reprinted. I think all of them get reprinted. But yeah, they all get reprinted, and they're all a lot cheaper. So yeah, for every other color combination, I'm not going to go through all of them right now, but there's a price drop, obviously. $3.88 for this one right now, down from like $10 or so. So again, a very significant price drop on a lot of these. But yeah, if you're interested in these cards, make sure you check out that card list link in the description below. A lot of massive price drops, again, from this reprint set. And with that, this episode is coming to a close, so it's my turn to hear from you. In the comments below, let me know your thoughts are on this episode. And of course, as always, thanks again, and have a good one. This show and episodes like this one are possible thanks to viewers like you. If you're looking for an easy way to help support this show, make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. Also, hit that bell notification icon so you don't miss any new episodes. You can also go check out our playmats and other merchandise at thecommandersquarters.com. Another easy way to support this show is with our TCG Player affiliate links. So whether you're buying a deck or individual cards, you can use this general link right here or one in the description. And the final way that you can support this show is by supporting us directly by becoming a patron. There are many benefits to being a patron, and I truly couldn't do this without all of their support.